Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we will be learning about the poem My Grandmother's House, written by Kamala. Before we start, let us look at what we will be doing in this video. We will be looking at the introduction to this poem, analyzing the poem. We will be looking at the summary of this poem. We will be discussing the various themes in this poem, and finally we will be identifying the figures of speech which include poetic devices. So let us begin with the introduction to this poem. Kamala Das's autobiographical poem, My Grandmother's House, expresses deep nostalgia, loneliness, and emotional loss. The speaker fondly remembers her grandmother's house as a warm sanctuary where she was loved unconditionally and felt safe and secure during her childhood. However, after her grandmother's death, the once loving house became silent, dark, and lifeless, even inhabited by snakes, symbolizing emptiness and decay. As an adult, the speaker longs to return, not to possess the house again, but simply to reconnect with the memories and love it once held. Through this contrast between her happy childhood and lonely present life, the poem reveals her emotional homelessness and her painful search for affection in a world where she now has to beg for even small scraps of love from strangers. On to the analysis of this poem. We will be analyzing the poem line by line. Kindly make notes of the keywords and important points. Line 1 to 5. There is a house, now far away from where once I received love. That women died. So this is the opening line of the poem. The poem opens with an immediate sense of longing and nostalgia. The speaker is trying to, reveal the happiness that she had in her past life. But now she associates herself with unconditional affection through both time and distance. So she says that time and life have taken the speaker to another place, but the physical separation is only physical, because she cannot return to that time or that house, because her old life has changed and many new things have come. So when she says there is a house now far away, this house refers to her grandmother's house. So her grandmother's house was a place of, it was a location of love, and it represents feelings of safety and affection, because the speaker received a lot of love and belonging in that place. So this shows us how memory and experience can shape the significance and meanings of different locations. So this, we can see a contrast. There is a house now far away, which means geographically they are at different positions. So it highlights the contrast between the warmth of her childhood and the empty nature of her present life, which she is leading after her grandmother's death. So here she says there is a house. So a house is written here without any indication of its importance. So when the poet says that there is a house, which means it was a very random house right now, though once upon a time it was a place of belonging, love and affection. Right now it is very cold and empty. So there is a house, right now it is a location where there is no love or security, now far away from where once I received love, which is her grandmother's house. That is the place where she received love and affection. That woman died. So here for the first time she mentions about her grandmother as that woman. So when she addresses her grandmother like this, it removes all emotional connection that she had with her. So this says that emotional distancing does not suggest that the speaker does not like her grandmother anymore or her grandmother's house, but it tells us about the isolation that she now feels. The memories are so far away and makes it feel like another life. It feels like the speaker cannot measure the love she once received. Because she says when there is a house which is now far away from where once she received love, that is her grandmother's house, and now that woman has died, her grandmother has died. So the second line talks about the death of the grandmother, and it tells about the loneliness that she now is feeling. And after she says that there is a house and where she received love, there is a pause, if you can see here. What does that mean? It tells us the temporal and the distance between the speaker and the house where she once received love. So the speaker's use of the words "that woman," it sounds both respectful and pained. It's like she can't, bear to see my grandmother's death. She just says that woman died. So it has to hold the idea of that woman at a distance. So even since her grandmother's death, the speaker is not able to find anything like the love she remembers in that house which is now far away. So to summarize, she says that there is a house. Once that house had love, meaning, protection, but today it feels very cold and empty. So it is just a house. It is now far away geographically from where she once received love. So that is a place where when she was young, she was there in her grandmother's house and there she received love. And then she pauses because there's a pause. After that period, there is some time lapse, and after that she says her grandmother has died. I hope this is clear. Let us move on to the next lines. The house withdrew into silence. Snakes moved among books. I was then too young to read, and my blood turned cold like the moon. So the house, is being said that the house withdrew into silence. So this is after the grandmother's death, which says that transformation even the house had to face. So when a person dies and when that person is a very loved person like the grandmother, it's not only the poet who experiences a transformation, even the house, even the it indicates the transformative nature of even the objects around us. So this says that house is not the one that defines its own importance, but the grandmother who lived there made the house more important and gave it a meaning. Her presence brought love, vitality and energetic noise into the house, and therefore it was a place of warmth and joy. So that is why the poet earlier said that it was a place where she once received love. So it's not just about the physical distance that separates her, but the fact that that love does not even exist anymore, because it's not only because she is not there in the house, it's also because the grandmother is not there. The figure who represented the whole house is not there. So she does not, receive the love at all. So with her grandmother's death, it has now become just a house and it is empty of all the love that it once had. So here the poet says the house withdrew into silence. Without the presence of the grandmother, the house itself has changed. With the grandmother's presence, the house was noisy, it was energetic, but now it has become silent. Snakes moved among books. I was then too young. So now here we are talking about a snake. So this is a auditory imagery. So the importance of this phrase snakes moved, it extends beyond a phrase, because the poet says the house is silent but the snakes moved. So this is an auditory imagery, because when the house is silent, this is the sound that you can hear there. So it creates a hushing sound which contrasts with the silence, which is now how the house is characterized. It is characterized with the presence of the snakes. So as the snakes move among books, so it is unclear whether they are in the bookshelf or the books are littered on the ground, but this is due to the metaphorical nature of the snakes, and they are literally within the books. So the speaker uses snakes as representation of those individuals who are defined by the lesser or undesirable qualities of the snakes. So snakes are often regarded as creatures who betray their evil and also deception. We don't see snakes as good creatures. They do not symbolize good things. They symbolize cruelty and things like that. So it's not a very good characteristic. And the poet says that I was then too young to read. So here she says that she was too young to read about these characters, and it fails to prepare her for the real world where she will encounter snakes. So snakes moved among books. I was then too young. So snakes were moving among the books, but she didn't realize that because she was too young and she wouldn't read. So she was not prepared for a world where she will encounter snakes everywhere, and that is something that will become clearer in the further lines. So when the poet says that I was then too young to read, it has two meanings. Either she was due to an inability, due to her early levels of education, she was physically too young by age, or prohibition from her grandmother, who again extends her expressions of love to protect her granddaughter from the harsh realities of this world. So the poem becomes more clear that the speaker is painfully lonely. Her grandmother, in whose house she once received love, seems to have been her only place of affection. So this grandmother is dead now, and since the speaker was too young to read, she must have led a very tough and loveless life. Further, the speaker says, "My blood turned cold like the moon." So this builds on again a sort of imagery. Through this coldness, it is compared to the simile of temperature of the moon, and my blood turned cold like the moon. So here there's a comparison. So it's a simile. So here there is a distinction between the speaker and those she refers to as snakes. So this says that her nature is more gentle and she's very truthful, and something which will again fail to save her from the harsh realities of the world. So again we can see a sort of distance because the speaker is completely removed from the house where snakes dwell, only in the pages of the book. So she is completely unable to return. So when they say the house withdrew into silence and snakes moved among books, which means she would not touch snakes. Sorry, books. She would not touch books, and it was forbidden, or it was not seen as a good thing because snakes moved among books. Reading books was not, it was compared to like cruelty and all the things that a snake represents or symbolizes. So she is completely unable to return, or she is forced to leave the place where she once received love, and now all she can do is recall it in her memories. So when she says that her blood turned cold like the moon, it is an idiom which often tells us about fear or shock. So it is unconnected to the her grandmother's house. Instead of functioning as a sudden moment of realization, she before she realizes how the world is, she is thrust into the real world and she has to see the harsh realities of life. When she says my blood turned cold like the moon, it means this. Also, it can mean because all the unkind people in the world are seen as snakes or compared to snakes, and they are cold-blooded. So, just as the grandmother's house represents love, warmth, and care, in the same way, this transformation of blood into cold, it symbolizes laws of love. So, individuals are forced to become cold, uncaring, and to deal with the adversities in future. So, in the same way, when she leaves her grandmother's house, there's a time of transformation for the speaker. Her longing to return to this place, it comes to represent her longing to return to the person she once was. When she was young, she was warm, loving, and she was unchanged by the world. But now she has grown up to become very lonely. So, in total, the poet is again reminding her grandmother's house and describing it in a as a house, but now it's very far away from where she lives. So in that house, she was loved by her grandmother, but now her grandmother is no more, and that house has become empty, silent, and lifeless. And also in the third line, the picture of a small library is painted by the poet. She says that there were books, but the poet was too young to read those. And among those books, snakes moved, and whenever she saw, she was scared, and it made her blood cold like the moon. I hope this is clear. Let us move on to the 6th to 12th line. How often I think of going there to peer through blind eyes of windows. So there is a simile again here, because she is only able to recall her house, but she is not able to physically go there. So speaker tells about her longing and she is prevented from going there. So when she says how often, so this tells us that she often thinks of returning there, and the speaker reveals her state of dilemma, where her desire to return is suspended in a state of constant crisis which only she can understand. So with the house which is now withdrawing into silence, the grandmother's house becomes more personified, because later on we can see it to peer through blind eyes of windows. So there's a transformation of its windows into eyes. So eyes here often symbolizes protection and connection. But here those eyes, they are seen as they are blind. They are robbed of the function that they should have done to protect and connect this child. So this can also be said because earlier her grandmother was there. The eyes of her grandmother was there to protect her and to give her love and security. But now, in the absence of her grandmother, without her, the house becomes a shell. So it is ready to be used and to resume its purpose, but the house is abandoned and hollow. Or just listen to the frozen air. So this creates a vivid and immersive sensory experience. So here we can see that this frozen air extends to the cold idea of the previous lines. So just as the speaker's blood turned cold when she left the house, in the same way, the house after the grandmother's departure, the air turned frozen. So here her presence becomes, compared with warmth, light and love, which makes her a beacon of positivity in a cold and unforgiving world. So here there is a rhyme between air and despair. If you see, it is rhyming, right? So this again heightens the comparison between the speaker's reaction while coming back to her home. So here, or just listen to the frozen air. So here while listening, it is characterized by a peaceful atmosphere. The wild despair shows the other end of the emotional spectrum, because the speaker vents her anger and her frustration at the death of her grandmother. So the death of the place she came to associate, she came back with love and warmth. So despite the wild nature of her sadness, because now after the death of her grandmother, in wild despair she comes back. So this tells her that her actions were purposeful, and they were lacking the actions which would associate with something wild. So the darkness, to pick an armful of darkness, to bring it here to lie behind my bedroom door. So the speaker now acquires darkness, which takes only a part of the darkness with her. So she brings the darkness back to her new residence with her, and it becomes clear that there is a meaning to this presence, which is now her grandmother's house. So in her absence, in the absence of the grandmother, the house becomes, it lacks light, vitality, love, warmth, and instead of that love and light, darkness overtakes the house. The house which was once bright, it becomes dark. And this darkness, it symbolizes the absence of all these things, and it, it is a representative of lovelessness, of death, and of coldness. But still, even through all this, the speaker finds some level of security in it and provides a strange and twisted comfort, because it reminds her that although her grandmother's love is not there anymore, once it did exist. So when she remembers that her love did exist once, it ensures that the speaker never forgets the positive memories or how quickly the light of love can disappear. So when she says, like the speaker's wild despair, the darkness is also symbolized as a dog. darkness to bring it here to lie behind my bedroom door like a brooding dog. So this is also a simile because once a beast, it has now been tamed and domesticated. So with these two instances of wild entities becoming tame, the speaker creates a sense of numbness through the entire process as if the absence of love dulls every other emotion. So the depiction of darkness is a reminder of the absence of love that is enforced by the brooding dog. So it indicates a meditation on the negative talks. You cannot believe, darling. So in this, the speaker is again talking about the absence of love in her adult life. When she says, when she addresses darling, it comes as a shock, because in this the pet name darling can be interpreted as in a sarcastic way, because it could indicate soul relationship in which she is now broken apart because of lack of love. So here what the speaker believes is that no one in the world knows love better than her, because the affection shown to her by her grandmother in her young life, that is what is love according to her. She is certain to know when it is missing. She can understand the difference between love and not loving a person. She knows how to differentiate the feelings. So here she brings home the darkness, which represents an absence of love, which makes more sense. So this house is already characterized by cold and unloving presence because of the absence of the grandmother. So she says that at least the darkness from her grandmother's house reminds her that she was once loved. So now, knowing that the poem addresses darling, the reference to my bedroom door becomes significant, because the speaker does not use the plural version of it. She does not say our bedroom door, she says my. So this says that there is a level of separation between her and the person she is addressing. So the poet always thinks about her grandmother's house, and it's constantly on her mind, as it's been a very long time and she hasn't visited that place, and now she's feeling guilty about it. She often dreams of going there, but now that the house is locked since her grandmother is no more, she still doesn't mind going, even if just to look at the house through the windows or even listen to the silence which is frozen in time. She doesn't mind picking up darkness from that house and bringing it back to her home where she is now staying, to keep it near her bedroom door like a dog and brood over her loss. So she refers to her husband or her lover as darling, and she says that he can't even try and imagine how happy she was when she lived with her grandmother, how proud she was when she was loved unconditionally. So she says these are all the things, even if she has to go back to that house which was once filled with love and now which is filled with darkness, even if she is to bring back that darkness to where she is right now living and put that darkness like a dog behind her bedroom door, she says to her husband or lover or to the audience that we cannot believe how much it is. I hope this is clear. Let us move ahead to line 13 to 16. Can you that I lived in such a house and was proud and loved? I, who have lost my way and beg now at strangers' doors to receive love at least in a small change. So here, she sincerely believes that even though the addresser's love for her is now gone, she is undeserving of love altogether. So she says that once she had an abundance of love in her grandmother's house, and therefore she knew what love was, and even today that is what comes to her mind when she thinks about love. So when she says, I lived in a house and was proud and loved. So here it emphasizes how full and fulfilling this past life was. The speaker directs her attention to the current state of her life and how love is important to her right now. She says, I who have lost my way and now beg it at strangers' doors. So she has lost her way because she became diverted to a path she never intended to walk down. So all of her expectations of life and her attitude has been lost over the years, and her blood has turned cold. So she has lost her way, which indicates a desire that she wants to come back to that young life again. She wants to come back to that straight path. But it is like her longing to return to her grandmother's house. It can only be, dreamt of or desired, but it can truly never happen. And next, when she says my way and beg it now at strangers' doors. Now she characterizes herself as a beggar of love. So this implies that she is completely needy of love, and she's searching for it even in some small amount by appealing to the kindness of others without any pride, and providing, a contrast between a proud girl who lived in her grandmother's house, who was loved, and now a beggar who is at the stranger's doors to receive love. So there is a contrast here. Now she feels lost in life's chaos, and she's now begging at strangers for the way to that door and those times when she spent her childhood where she received love, and she doesn't even mind if it's for a few seconds, but she wishes to go back. The grandmother's home symbolizes a safe haven of love and security, which the speaker fails to find in her current adult world. The speaker feels very alienated and starved of true affection. She is reduced to a state where she has to beg for love from strangers. So this truly tells us that her desire for love is so strong that the speaker will do just anything to find it, even if that means losing her way. So, in the absence of her grandmother's love, the speaker is so hungry for affection that she becomes willing to even beg for scraps of love at the stranger's doors. So, this is, like having casual affairs, looking for love in the wrong places. So this tells us that loneliness and a hunger for love can all become, very consuming and devastating and destructive. Now at strangers' doors to receive love, at least in small change. So the poet feels lost in this world, and she feels like the only place where she can find herself is that house. But the sad part is that the person who loved her, her grandmother, is no more. But she is ready to trade anything to go back to her childhood days. So she says, my way. She has lost her way. She wants to go back to her, childhood house. She wants to go back to her childhood self, and she wants that love back. But she has lost her way and beg now at strangers' doors to receive love. She does not even care if it's strangers, but she becomes, from that proud girl, she has become a beggar who is now standing at strangers' doors to receive love, at least in a small change. So this girl who was once rich with her grandmother's love, she was very proud, is now a beggar who is, metaphorically speaking, a beggar at strangers' doors, begging for a small change of money. Small change of love. I hope this is clear. Thereby we come to the end of the analysis of this poem. If you have any more doubts, let me know through the comment section below. So now let us look at the summary of this poem. The poem describes the speaker's deep longing for her grandmother's house, where she once experienced love, comfort, and security. After her grandmother's death, the house becomes silent, dark, and deserted, symbolizing loneliness and emotional emptiness. Although the house has changed, the speaker still wishes to return to it because it represents the warmth and affection she has lost in her adult life. The poem finally highlights her sadness and emotional isolation, as she now has to seek love and affection from strangers instead of receiving it naturally as she did in her childhood. The speaker thinks about her grandmother's house, once a sanctuary where she received love freely. Following her grandmother's death, the house transformed to an entire eerie, silent place which is inhabited by snakes. Despite this transformation, the speaker frequently contemplates returning not to reclaim it, but simply to observe through its windows or gather its darkness as a companion. The final lines reveal her current emotional homelessness, as now she must beg for even scraps of affection from strangers. Having lost the secure love she once took, lived in a place filled with love and pride, because now she feels emotionally homeless and lost, forced to search for small scraps of affection from strangers after losing the unconditional love she once received naturally in childhood. I hope this is clear. Let us move ahead to the themes. The first theme is longing and nostalgia, loneliness and desire for love, death and decay, childhood versus adulthood. So these are all the themes of this poem. Now let us move ahead to the different figures of speech. The first figure of speech is metaphor. My blood turned cold like the moon. So here the speaker's sadness and loneliness after her grandmother's death is portrayed. Simile. Blind eyes of windows. So the windows are compared to blind eyes, showing the house is lifeless and abandoned. Personification. The house withdrew into silence. Blind eyes of windows. The house is described as if it can withdraw and have eyes, making it seem alive and emotional. Imagery. A brooding dog, frozen air, moon. All these are imagery. Symbolism. Grandmother's house symbolizes love, comfort, childhood memories. Darkness and silence symbolizes loneliness and emotional emptiness. Contrast. The poet contrasts her happy childhood in her grandmother's house with her lonely adult life now. So hereby we come to the end of the video. I hope this video was of help to you and you understood everything that was discussed. Let me know if you have any more doubts or queries in the comment section below. Thank you so much and let us meet again in another educational video. Thank you, stay tuned and happy learning.